What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 190 of Ghosts in the Night, a paranormal and true crime podcast. Tonight, we are doing part two of the Waco Massacre. Travis is going to get to the good shit tonight. And if you were around for last week, you know what we talked about with part one. But basically, we just covered the early days of Mr. Jesus or David Koresh or Vernon Howe. And
yeah, his rather tumultuous childhood leading up to his resurrection competition with the would-be leader of the Branch Davidians after he arrived at Mount Carmel, which he won.
Obviously.
With the help of police.
Obviously.
And then we also moved on to, Agent Robert Rodriguez infiltrating Mount Carmel and gaining intelligence in their walked through by another government employee. And then we got on to, the farmer with the allegations of automatic weapon gunfire, including up to 50 caliber.
Which I was thinking about that. Because that was, there were some rants. There was a lot of rants in that episode.
There was.
He did not, between automatic and semi-automatic, if you you can make it almost sound automatic if you pull the trigger.
Plus, if you have multiple people firing at the same time,
that was it an automatic or fully automatic or semi-automatic? Who knows for sure? With that witness, he didn't see the gun, but bullets were being fired off rapidly.
Yes, I think they were leaning on his military background.
Well, but let's be honest.
Now.
Texas, he was drunk. Maybe
not. He could be a God-fearing man. But then we also led all the way up to all of these allegations and the reports of possible explosives being delivered there and illegal, well, not illegal guns or gun parts, but potentially transitional parts that could become illegal, which inevitably led to the ATF going to serve warrants for search and arrest for David Koresh and his compound and some of his followers, which turned into an absolute shit show where both Branch Davidians died and federal agents died over shootouts.
Generally, that happens in a shootout.
Yes.
There's not stormtroopers. Most police officers can hit some shit, or government agents can hit some shit.
Yes. And where we're at now, David Koresh is already wounded as well.
Yeah, I did not know this. I was not aware of this at the time. So, see, I even learned something. Of course, I'm an idiot, so that's neither here nor there.
So that brings us to today. We're getting into now. We went from the ATF service of warrant, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Oh, right. Yeah, search.
Into the FBI siege. This is now officially a siege, and the FBI is getting involved. So, after the ATF withdrew from the compound, they established contact with David Koresh and other people inside the compound at Mount Carmel. Which, again, if anybody hasn't caught up, that's the Branch Davidians compound in Elk, Texas. It's not actually Waco.
13 miles outside of Waco.
It is.
We covered that last week. If you weren't here, go back and listen to it.
Losers. So, because of the death of federal agents, the FBI took command soon after contact was made with the Branch Davidians. Jeff Jamar, the head of the Bureau's San Antonio field office, was placed in charge of this siege as site commander. Excuse me. Now, the FBI hostage rescue team, or the HRT, was headed by HRT commander Richard Rogers, who had been previously criticized for his actions during the Ruby Ridge incident. The fuck was that?
What are you talking about?
I got a weird notification I'm not used to getting, and I just wanted to know what it was.
Okay.
It's nothing.
No, who'd you just mention? I was busy doing something.
Richard Rogers, the commander of the FBI hostage rescue team.
Okay, we haven't got to
He was at Ruby Ridge.
We haven't got to the other guy who was at Ruby Ridge, the complete douchebag.
The shooter?
Yeah. You haven't.
Yeah, I don't even touch on him.
Oh, okay.
Like it's a mental throw in.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
We'll
Because that doesn't come up for a while anyway.
yeah, we'll throw that in when we get a little foreshadowing.
Yes. So by this point, the Davidians had phone contact with local media, and David Koresh was giving phone interviews to that local media. But the FBI cut the Davidians' communication with anyone outside of themselves. Which, in that scenario, yeah, that's probably what you should fucking do.
Standard operating procedure.
I've never done a hostage negotiation. Well, hostage is loosely based. It's just kind of a negotiation, really.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say they were hostages.
No.
They were there of their own free will and accord.
So for the next 51 days, communication with those people inside was by telephone with a group of 25 FBI negotiators. They brought in a lot. Like one of the guys, I watched a little Vidoc that had
25?
That had one of the guys as the subject of the Vidoc, who was one of the negotiators, and he said I think he said he was packing to go to on vacation with his family or something like that, and they called him and was like, "Pack your bags, you're going to Texas." And he was like, "Oh, blah blah blah," and he was asking questions because they knew who the Branch Davidians were, but they weren't really on their radar of people that they were worried about.
Yeah, they weren't top
at the FBI at least. Like they knew who they were, they knew who David Koresh was, but they weren't worried about anything. And then he got the call, and he was like, "You're going to Texas." And he was like, "All right, boss, lock him and load him. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition." But that guy also said that a lot of the representations of a lot of the shit that was done in the processes used by law enforcement, he said a lot of the portrayal of that in media and film is fucking horseshit. Which
it always is.
Well, I mean, over the course of the next however many hours we talk about this shit, people being full of shit is going to come up multiple times. Because I've said already, this is a shit show from the government's standpoint. But David Koresh also wasn't like a normal dude. He knew what he was fucking doing pretty much all the time. He was a sly fella.
Would you say he kind of knew the outcome?
I don't know about that.
He knew
entirely.
All roads were ending here eventually anyway, at some point.
Well, I mean, I would imagine he thought he was going to die anyway because he'd been shot in the fucking stomach.
Yeah, which is shocking because that it lasted as long as it did with him being...
Well, I mean, if you listen to the wise words of Harvey Keitel, you know, fucking shot. He said, "You're not going to die, kid. You're shot in the gut. It takes a long time." He said, he said, "You're not going to die. It takes a long time to die from this kind of wound. I've seen this before."
It's a shitty way to, but you're going to eventually.
Yeah.
Just a shitty way to go.
So other side note to the whole 25 agents or negotiators, 51 days, Davidians, phone contact shit. The final report by the Justice Department found that the negotiators criticized the tactical commanders for undercutting negotiations. That's an ongoing theme in this whole thing, is the TAC teams, if you will, and the negotiation teams, do not see eye to eye at all.
I would think
the TAC guys are just like, "You fucking pussies," trying to fix it with words, and they're like, "Will you guys put the goddamn guns down so we can try to fucking resolve this shit?" It's back and forth the whole time.
I would think that's pretty much common on any situation.
Well, and there's also the whole either lack of communication between different branches of the government and even just police that is rampant throughout a lot of these stories. They're like, "No, they're not gonna get my collar." Just fuck off. That shit just throws another goddamn wrench in the fucking machine, and then everything goes to shit.
Negotiators and tactical operators,
I see them. I understand them having different opinions. I understand them having differing opinions, but in a situation like this, I would assume that the hostage negotiation team is apex or is alpha, and the TAC team is secondary / beta because you want to avoid that.
Yeah, but you got these guys.
Just because you got a bunch of fucking coked out fucking dudes with guns, all trigger happy, ready to go. "I'm fucking ready, bro."
They got rock hard erections ready to fucking go.
I took 2 shots of Goldschlager and a big old needle full of steroids this morning. I'm ready to fucking go. I'll rip David Koresh's head off with his stupid fucking mullet. So, moving on from making fun of people. It's going to happen more. Over the course of the first few days, the FBI believed they had made a breakthrough when they negotiated with David Koresh that he and his followers would exit peacefully from their compound in return for a message recorded by Koresh being broadcast on national radio.
Well, that's
I mean, that's what every cult leader / religious person wants.
reasonable request and easily done.
Well, here we go. So the broadcast was made, which was basically just a sermon by David Koresh. But after the broadcast was made, Koresh told negotiators God told him to remain in the building and, quote, wait.
So David Koresh played him.
Yeah. After this, the negotiators were able to facilitate the release of 19 children from the compound, ranging in age from 5 months to 12 years old, without their parents. Yes.
Okay.
Now,
I'll get into it later. But go
now, yeah, and now the children that were released from the compound alleged that they had been physically and sexually abused long before the standoff ever came to be. But this was the key justification offered by the FBI to President Bill Clinton and Attorney General Janet Reno.
The hottest Attorney General we've ever had. I mean, she was smoking.
Yeah, that was the key justification they offered up to get permission and clearance to launch tear gas attacks and force the Branch Davidians out.
Now, when was this?
What?
When did it? Obviously, it didn't launch right away.
This was in the first handful of days.
Right.
Because this was a 51 day.
Right, I was going to say.
Well, it starts in the first couple days with the message, and then it all just, it's a 51 day period. None of this shit happened quickly.
They got the okay to use tear gas to drive them out, but they didn't do it right away. Because isn't that what, well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
That represents a big problem later on.
So the FBI actually sent a video camera to the Branch Davidians. Yeah. So in the videotape that they received from this video camera recorder thing, I don't know what they called them back in the day, magic boxes.
No, it was
probably weighed like 90 pounds.
Oh, it was one of those probably 93 issues and one big things you held on your
RCA
shoulder.
One.
Yeah,
that looks like it's
had
really
a VCR tape.
Yeah, it looks like it's super badass, but it's fragile as shit.
It looks like a freaking network news camera today, basically.
Excuse me again. So in the videotape, Koresh introduced his children and his, quote, wives to the FBI negotiators, including several minors who claimed to have had babies fathered by Koresh. And they say that Koresh was possibly the father of up to 14 of the children who stayed with him in the compound. Yeah, they'd be busting nuts. So as time went on, Koresh negotiated with the FBI for more time, allegedly to write religious documents he needed to complete before he surrendered. So it's a manifesto.
Right.
Basically. His communication was filled with biblical imagery and alienated the federal negotiators who treated the situation as a hostage crisis. And it was to the point that the negotiation team actually started calling Koresh's words, quote, Bible babble, which is amazing. And also shout out to Necronomipod, because Dave from Necronomipod had a Patreon show for like a year called Bible Babble with Dave.
I mean,
somebody should have fucking trademarked that shit when they said it. That's fucking fantastic.
Let's be honest. Most Ryman reverends, that's what they do. It's all Bible babble. Babble babble.
Babble bubble.
Bubble bubble bubble.
Bubble butt. Bubble 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 butt.
They just blabbing their asses off.
Yeah. That's what the fuck they do. That's what this guy did. He was a smooth talker. Like, it's all look at Jim Jones. Like all these, like all religious leaders are just smooth talkers.
All cult leaders.
Cult leaders are a little bit worse because somehow they can get them to like agree to not fuck their wives because only they can fuck their wives now.
This is where I have a problem with this. When we get to the
that's the only problem.
When we get to the end where we kind of voice over opinions about this, I'm going off. I'm just spewing venom.
Well said.
Thank you.
As the days went by during the siege, two factions developed within the FBI. One believed that no negotiation was the answer, and the other believed the whole thing would only be resolved by force, as we talked about earlier. Now, the techniques used to try and force the Branch Davidians out became more and more aggressive over the course of this thing, which that makes sense. It's called escalation for a reason.
Right.
Sleep deprivation was implemented through all-night broadcasts of recordings of planes, pop music, Buddhist chanting, and the screams of rabbits being slaughtered.
So you mean they were just playing Tiffany all night and that didn't drive them out?
I don't know, but fucking... Have you ever heard of a dying rabbit?
I don't think so.
They just fucking scream. It's awful.
I mean,
It's
just
very
play some
interesting
Norwegian death metal and
well, then you got a party inside. That's not going to make anybody leave.
I doubt it.
I've done that at the bar, though. I've played deathcore like later at night when they're like, I know these guys are going to sit here until after close because they're going to be like, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I got it.
Well, I will say this. I will take death metal over ABBA any day of the fucking week.
Hey, everybody loves Dancing Queen.
No, not everybody does.
Not everybody does. Not everybody loves Dancing Queen, but everybody knows the fucking words.
Well, fuck, because a 2-year-old could have wrote that song.
Hey, they're millionaires and we're not.
Speak for yourself. I'm at least 100 air.
Yeah. A teen heir.
Yeah, teen air is more likely.
So, moving forward to escalating yet again to 9 Bradley fighting vehicles carrying M652 CS tear gas grenades and ferret rounds, which are less than lethal rounds. And 5 M728 combat engineer vehicles obtained from the U.S. Army began patrolling the perimeter of the compound. Now, in the course of this, the armored vehicles were used to destroy perimeter fences and outbuildings and crush the cars belonging to the Branch Davidians. The vehicles also repeatedly drove over the grave of Branch Davidian Peter Gent, despite protests by the Branch Davidians and FBI negotiators. That's shitty. That's poking the bear.
Yeah.
They're trying to draw a reaction with that.
Yeah, they're trying to, light the fuse. If
like that's dirty pool, as they say.
Yes. I mean, they were trying to get a reaction and hopefully spark a fire. And
that's like some schoolyard shit. That's like you do some dumb shit, and then when somebody reacts to it, you're like, "I didn't do nothing."
That is true.
He just freaked out. Oh no, Miss Simpson. He just started punching me.
Just to play devil's advocate, how well was the grave marked? Maybe they didn't know.
I don't know. I feel like there wasn't any photos because it had gotten run over by a tank.
I mean, was it just
whatever the fuck you want to call it?
Was it just a stick with a beer can on it, or was there a cross? Was there a headstone? I'm just asking the hard questions.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. So during the ATF raid, 2 of the 3 water storage tanks on the roof of the main building had been damaged. So now we're throwing in supply issues. So the FBI also cut all the power and water to the compound, forcing the people inside to survive on rainwater and stockpiled MRE rations that they had. Which is another thought I had. Is okay, they have this apocalyptic thing going on.
Yes.
But you also have a stockpile of weapons and MREs. Well, that's not a very good look for your theories of how Armageddon is going to happen and how you're going to handle it. Seems like you're not accepting going to the promised land. You're like ready to hold out and fucking hunker down.
I'm not an expert in religious studies. I know the rapture, which I believe takes place before, or maybe, I don't know. Rapture's everybody. All the good fuckers go.
Yeah, right.
And the rest of it, like you and me, are still here doing podcasts.
Yeah.
And we got to live with the beast.
Ozzy?
Yeah. But I think there's going to be some troubling time before the rapture. So maybe that's what the MREs are for. I'm just trying to justify a little. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not a biblical scholar.
Now, also with all of these techniques that they're implementing, this is just a little throw-in that I thought was interesting. Attorney Jack Zimmerman, who criticized the use of sleep and peace-disrupting sound against the Branch Davidians, saying, quote, "The point was this. They were trying to have sleep disturbance and they..." Sorry, not all of these are like the best grammatical quotes. Let me try that again. The point was this. They were trying to have sleep disturbance, and they were trying to take someone that they viewed as unstable to start with, and they were trying to drive him crazy. And then they got mad because he does something that they think is irrational.
Now, that part of that quote is the only part I agree with to a certain extent. You can't, if you're going, the idea of a siege, and we'll kind of talk when we kind of go over toward the end when I give my opinion. I think they should. It's a siege. It's not supposed to be fucking Club Med. They should.
Well, and there was more shit going on here too, that I didn't even mention. Is like, at one point they negotiated for milk for the babies and the kids that were still there, and like they bugged the crates somehow, so they had ears inside the building and shit. Common
practice, I would think. But I mean, it's a siege. It's not supposed to be a vacation for these guys. You want them to come out, and you want them to come out without a fight, essentially, or you don't want a firefight to break out, or what eventually happened to happen.
Yeah.
So make it as unbearable as possible. Hopefully,
the firefight already happened.
Well, that was the precursor to this.
Which is never a good start. Like, you should always have low expectations when you start off with a gunfight.
Which this should have told the FBI with what happened with the ATF when they went served the arrest warrants and search warrants. A gunfight broke out. These people will defend themselves.
All right.
If you push too hard. Let's use the word siege and siege. Take away all their supply. Cut them off. Surround them, cut them off. Eventually, they're going to have to come out.
Right.
Or they're going to die.
Well, and then you throw they're going to have to. You throw in that they're walking a fine line with this one because there's kids involved too.
Right.
So it's like you can't be like, no sandwiches.
Well,
just sandwiches for the kids.
No, well, let's be honest. It's like war. I'm sorry. In times of war, you can't be completely, totally all for everything. So you have to make it try the best to get those people out, and eventually.
And I don't disagree with you, but I do think that the tactical teams and shit like that, the boots on the ground guys, I don't think that they were avoiding pressing buttons.
They wanted to get in,
which
in and
doesn't
out.
help either.
They wanted to get in and out as quick as possible and get home.
Yeah, and then like you want to be shocked when shit goes south.
Right. But you can't get pissed off when your psychological warfare that you're doing on these people when it works, when it does what it's supposed to do.
It just doesn't do what you thought it was going to do.
Right, but it does something. There's going to be a fucking reaction. You can't get pissed about that reaction.
Yeah.
So that's where it's the government. They're, let's be honest.
They're always wrong. But they're always right. They're always wrong to us, but they're always right to them, so that's all that matters. So, despite the actions of the FBI, Koresh ordered a group of his followers to leave. That's when 11 Branch Davidian followers left and were arrested immediately as material witnesses, with one being charged with conspiracy to murder. Never really saw any how they proved that was the guy. But, so the negotiators found it disturbing that the children were so willing to stay with Koresh. The children had learned that the earlier group of children who left the compound with some women were immediately separated and the women were arrested. So I would imagine David Koresh and others are in there like, now look at this. See what happens? You go to the man and they're going to take you away from your loved ones and they're going to put you in the foster care system with the devil worshippers and the fucking Jesuits.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, I think, arrest them right off, using the term arresting them right off the bat as soon as they walk out. You want them out.
Right?
I think
like maybe give them a cookie first.
Detain them. Say, you're not under arrest. We just want to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So stay here in this camp or whatever.
This air-conditioned trailer that has water and
food.
Until
we find out what's going on. We're not putting you in handcuffs. There might be a fence. And then
as soon as they give you what you want, slap the cuffs on them.
Right, and
beat the fuck out of them in the name of the law.
That way,
that's how we do stuff.
You don't piss them off. You wanted them out. That is your goal. You want as many people out as you can. Don't piss them off.
Right.
And then by treating them decently and not arresting them right away, arrest them without actually arresting them is what I'm saying.
Right.
And it doesn't
detain them.
It doesn't give Koresh any ammunition to use against,
which is literally all that was.
Right.
Is now he's got something to scare the people and the kids.
Right.
It's like, oh, if you go out there, they're going to take your kids away from you and you're never going to see them again. Because they think we're crazy Christians because we may or may not be. And I don't even want to say that. I don't even want to say that the Branch Davidians themselves were all just batshit crazy. People follow things. Like you run into the right person talking the right shit at the right time in your life, you're going to fucking follow them. Whether it's a religious thing or if it's a guy that's like, hey man, I got this new technique on how to take shit. It's going to change your life. And they sell it to you well enough, you're going to be like, I'll never shit the same again.
I will cover this in my rant at the end. Stay tuned.
Anyway, back to the fucking facts. So over the course of the siege, several scholars who studied this is a hard one. Apocalypticism.
I don't even want to try to say that.
Apocalypticism.
I'm stupid.
In religious groups, tried to tell the FBI that their siege tactics would reinforce the impression within the Branch Davidians that they were part of a biblical, quote, end of times confrontation that had cosmic significance. That also makes sense. You're just kind of feeding into what they've been preached.
Yeah, I understand that to a certain extent, but I'm a firm believer. Time is on your side. You have to have patience with this. Eventually, somebody gets hungry enough, they'll do anything and hopefully come out, you know. And if that means not giving a kid a sandwich, okay, maybe. I don't know. There's no right or wrong. I don't think starting a full-fledged gunfight where people are guaranteed to make them die, but make it uncomfortable for them. Time is on your side. You got all day. Here's what I would do. If I would work for the FBI, if I was the head honcho at one of these things, I'd put me a fucking lawn chair out on the front porch or out in front, have a pizza, and just say, I'm paid by the hour, motherfucker. I'll be here until it's done. Yeah. Somebody give me a fucking milkshake.
I'd just be like, oh, that one's got 1 grain of sand on it. Foop. Just throw it over your shoulder.
There'd be a DoorDash car pulling up every 10 minutes.
Just get some taco trucks to fucking line up right there. Exactly. Play mariachi music loud as fuck. Like, hey, Dave, you want to Al Pastor? Oh, that's right. You won't come out. No tacos. No burrito for you.
That's what I mean.
Hey, they got flan. It's really good.
I mean, time is on your side.
Holy shit, is that queso dip?
Eventually you're going to get hungry and tired of being no water,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not
I think that's a better option than doing what they ended up doing and
which we're getting to.
That turned out to.
We're getting to rapidly now. Now back to this whole reinforcing of this end of times thought process that groups like the Branch Davidians have. That thought process would likely increase the chances of a violent, deadly outcome. If you think about it, because they're like feeding into like, this is it. Right. Now, religious scholars also pointed out that the beliefs of the group may have appeared to be extreme, but to Branch Davidians, their religious beliefs were deeply meaningful, and they were all willing to die for them, which is a lot of people, unfortunately, in all sects of religion, and it's fucking dumb.
Just to play devil's advocate again, people can say that all they want. I'm willing to die for them.
Well, clearly some people in there are.
Right, but
enough that it's a problem that you can't just go be like, hey guys.
But it's like
Jim here. Can we just talk this out a little bit?
It's like the Mike Tyson quote. Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. You can say
that's everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Thank you, Mike Tyson.
There you
go. But you can talk big all you want, but when it comes nut crunching time,
that's true. But you're at the point where like you've already had a gunfight and shit like that. Like, how much do you want to test that without just fully committing to like, fuck it, this is going down?
You know what? Fuck it. I've changed my opinion. Should have just launched a cruise missile, flatten the fucking place. Fuck it.
I mean, because like I said, I think a big part of it is the fact that they were trying to make up for Ruby Ridge. Because Ruby Ridge was handled 100% poorly.
Right. Yes. So we've covered that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, But let's just say they did a piss poor job.
So, as time went on, the negotiation team's discussions with Koresh became more and more difficult. Not a surprise. Koresh proclaimed himself to be the second coming of Christ, and that he had been commanded by his Father in heaven to remain in the compound. Now, a week before the final assault on Mount Carmel, the FBI considered using snipers to kill David Koresh and other key Branch Davidians. That worked out real well in Ruby Ridge. Your snipers, one of which was at Ruby Ridge, one of which pulled the fucking trigger that started the whole bullshit. Well, didn't start. That made that killed a woman that wasn't doing anything at the time.
Holding a baby.
Yeah.
Yes. That's what she was doing.
Yeah, because he basically took a shot that he shouldn't have fucking taken.
Right.
And now he's here. He's part of the sniper team that they would have used. Good call, guys.
I have a question, though. Okay, you said they were getting bugs in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was the FBI aware that he was getting his messages from Jesus? Was he telling the FBI negotiators this?
I would hope. I would assume that you just assume that.
Here's what I would have done. They were obviously they had bugs in. Why couldn't they have like a two-way with a little speaker? And he knew he was talking to God.
And try to become God.
They should have Real Genius that. You ever see Real Genius with Val Kilmer?
Mm-hmm.
You are, and by the way, quit jerking off. You are God.
It's not a bad idea.
David, this has went on long enough.
Just open the door.
Just go out. Fight another day.
Yeah. And so also the concern of the Branch Davidians committing mass suicide, like the one that happened at Jim Jones' Jonestown complex in 78.
And that was the CIA.
Was obviously in the back of the FBI officials' minds. Although Koresh denied any plans for mass suicide, and people leaving the compound had not seen any preparation for such a thing. I don't know if that was ever really on the table for this one.
Yeah.
But who knows? So now we get to big bold letters. Final assault.
Final assault.
Sounds like a Steven Seagal movie.
We gonna be early tonight?
Probably.
Sweet. Well, we got time to rant today.
But it does. It sounds like a Steven Seagal movie. Final assault. You know I'm a sheriff in Louisiana.
Final assault 85.
All right, so U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno approved the FBI hostage rescue team's recommendation to mount an assault on Mount Carmel after she was told that the conditions were deteriorating and the children were being abused inside of the compound. Let's go into Janet Reno's fucking involvement here a little bit. Janet Reno used the April 19th, 1985, the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord siege in Arkansas to convince President Bill Clinton that this event required such an intervention. The CSA siege ended with no loss of life by a blockade without a deadline. Now, President Clinton suggested similar tactics against the Branch Davidians, but Reno countered that the FBI hostage rescue team was tired of waiting. The standoff was costing $1 million a week. The Branch Davidians could hold out longer than the CSAL could, which is the Covenant, Sword, and Arm of the Lord, yeah, all that shit. And the chances of child sexual abuse and mass suicide were imminent. Now, little spark note to this. Bill Clinton later recounted, quote, "Finally, I told her that if she thought it was the right thing to do, she could go ahead." That seems like a really nonchalant fucking way to go about thinking about some shit like this as the president of the goddamn United States. No, that's like agreeing to go to a restaurant for dinner because like you don't want to, but like that's what'll make Janet Reno happy.
Well, let's be honest.
You fucking cuck.
He had Monica outside the door waiting to come in.
Literally.
He had to fucking get Janet out. He was wanting to get his dick sucked.
Yeah, because I'm hoping he wasn't banging Janet Reno.
He's probably tearing that ass up.
God, looked like fucking Cloris Leachman now after she's been dead for like 4 years.
No,
good old Cloris Leachman.
Leachman was hot back in the day.
Fair enough.
I don't think Janet Reno was ever truly hot.
So over time, Reno's reason for approving the attack varied from her initial claim that the FBI hostage rescue team told her that Koresh was sexually abusing children and beating babies, which the hostage rescue team later denied any evidence of. So throw that in the fucking pot. To her, it moved to her claiming that Linda Thompson's, quote, unorganized militia of the United States was headed to Mount Carmel to, quote, either help Koresh or to attack him.
Linda Thompson?
Yeah.
There's a militia with a woman lead?
I guess.
That's hot. I'm sure she wasn't hot, but that's kind of hot.
Like Joan of Arc, but probably racist.
Is it wrong that I'm turned on a little right now?
All I had to say was Linda, and you were
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
girl.
Female. And right now, I'm not. Doesn't even have to be a female always. It could have been a male at one time.
Anyway, so April 19th, 1993, the assault was launched on the compound at Mount Carmel. Because the Davidians were heavily armed, the hostage rescue team was armed with .50 caliber rifles and armored combat engineering vehicles. Those are CEVs. If you hear me say CEV, it's a combat engineering vehicle. Excuse me. So the CEVs used explosives to punch holes in the walls to pump CS tear gas into the building in an attempt to force the Branch Davidians out without causing harm to them. Excuse me. Jesus. Got the COVID. The FBI planned to increase the amounts of gas pumped into the building over a 2-day period to increase pressure, forcing them to leave. No armed assault was made, and no shots were fired by federal agents on April 19th. So the day that it started, no shots were fired. Now, allegedly, several Branch Davidians opened fire, but the hostage rescue team's response was just to increase the amount of gas being used. It was basically like a shitty dentist appointment.
I mean, but at least it does show a little restraint.
I guess.
Because I would think, generally you always hear, once a shot's fired, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, you would think.
But, at least they showed a little restraint.
Yeah. Oh. Excuse me while I adjust.
Adjusted.
These are necessary. You got to adjust sometimes.
You do. Sometimes you just got to move it to the other side.
Cramps and shit. Okay, so there were multiple different types of tear gas rounds used over the course of the non-violent assault on Mount Carmel that were acquired from multiple sources. No Branch Davidians left the building. Instead, they found shelter in an underground bunker within the building, or some of them had gas masks.
They were prepared.
Yeah, they were really gearing up for this end of times shit. So around noon, 3 fires broke out almost simultaneously in different parts of the building and spread quickly. Footage of the fire was broadcast live on TV, and the government still says the fires were deliberately started by the Branch Davidians, and some Branch Davidian survivors maintain that the fires were accidentally or deliberately started by the assault. So we got a lot of finger pointing.
Yes.
Now, 9 people did leave the building during the fire. The remaining Branch Davidians, including the children, were buried alive by rubble, suffocated, or shot. Many died from smoke or carbon monoxide inhalation and other causes as the fire engulfed the building around them. According to the FBI, Steve Schneider, Koresh's right-hand man, shot and killed Koresh before turning the gun on himself.
Kind of a murder. He had a murder-suicide pact.
I guess. Assisted suicide, if you will. So 76 people ended up dying in this fire because the whole compound went up at that point.
Right.
I guess they were saying something like it was a windy day, so that was just feeding it, and it just fucking spread like wildfire.
Well, it was probably an old freaking building anyway.
Yeah.
But,
and they didn't have any water to put it out. Just go shoot a hole in the bottom of the water tank. Stand under it. Hope something good happens.
Yeah.
So when the rubble was searched by authorities, a large concentration of bodies, weapons, and ammunition was found in the bunker. An arson investigator from the Texas Rangers report assumes many of the people inside were either denied escape from within or refused to leave until escape was not an option. That's an interesting toss-in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was also mentioned that the structural debris from the breaching operations on the west end of the building may have blocked a possible escape route through a tunnel system. How the fuck would they know that? I can't blame them for that one.
Right.
Shitty luck. Also, an independent investigation by 2 experts from the University of Maryland's Department of Fire Protection Engineering concluded the compound residents had sufficient time to escape the fire if they had so desired.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know on that one. I'm not a what's the word? What am I looking for? I am not a expert in fire protection engineering.
Neither am I.
So I don't fucking know.
But I am an expert.
I feel like if I'm in a house that's on fire, I'm gonna find a way out of it, though.
I'm an expert in common sense.
Yeah.
And if
Fucking break a window and jump out of that bitch.
Or if I'm a devout, like what they might, some of them guaranteed, some of them were.
Mm-hmm.
We're prepared to. This is how it ends.
I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You get fucking shot for no reason. It's like I would rather fucking get shot and killed than burned to death.
Of course, me, if I was in that situation, I would have grabbed the nearest white hanky I could find, cracked the window,
right?
Started waving that motherfucker.
It shocks me that more people weren't just like, "Fuck you, dude. You're a fucking asshole. I'm out."
We'll get into that toward the end. Or well, I guess we could. Well, once we wrap this up.
Okay, now autopsies performed on some of the women and children revealed death by skull injuries.
So they did not die in the fire.
We'll get into that. Autopsy photos of other children showed what appear to be spasmic death poses that are consistent with cyanide poisoning, which can be a result of burning CS gas.
Ooh, Jim Jones did. Possibly.
Only one body showed traces of benzene, one of the components of solvent dispersed CS gas, but it claimed that the gas insertions had finished nearly an hour before the fire started, and that it was enough time for solvents to dissipate from the bodies.
Okay, we're getting medical.
We're getting interesting.
We're getting medical opinions, which we know how that always plays out.
Other autopsy records reported that at least 20 Branch Davidians were shot, including Koresh and 5 children under the age of 14. 3-year-old Dalen Gant was stabbed in the chest. The medical examiner who performed the autopsies. Jesus Christ, sounds like a shitty dinosaur. Look, it's an autopsies.
I didn't see that one in Jurassic Park.
Right? So the medical examiner who performed the autopsies said these deaths were mercy killings by those trapped in the fire with no escape.
I think that could be a stretch.
Yeah.
Possible, or it could be just a killing that happened before the fire.
Well, and an expert retained by the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, that's a thing, concluded that many of the gunshot wounds, quote, support self-destruction either by overt suicide, consensual execution, which is suicide by proxy, or less likely forced execution.
Right.
Now, now we go into the chronological breakdown of the events of April 19th.
Okay. Break it down.
These are the events of April 19th. 5:50. Agents call the Branch Davidian compound to warn they are going to begin tank activity and advise residents, quote, to take cover.
Wait a minute. Did you cover that?
What?
They were warned before the... Or are you talking about this? They knew the tanks were coming in?
Yeah.
Who told them?
I would assume the negotiators. They were like, hey, this is going to happen if you don't fucking stop.
I would think...
What are they going to do to stop it? Like, you can let them know pretty much anything you want. They're not going to stop you from doing anything. You've got fucking tanks.
I would think at that point, negotiators, your job's done. We're moving the tanks in.
What's the point? But I'd assume that that's your last-ditch effort. Be like, hey, before it goes down any further, here's your chance to chill the fuck out and get out of there.
Okay.
Which didn't work.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Where was I? Agents say the Branch Davidian who answered the phone did not reply, but instead threw the phone and phone line out the front door.
That sounds like a mature response.
Right? 5:55, the FBI hostage rescue team deploys 2 armored CEVs to the building. CEV-1 goes to the left of the buildings, CEV-2 to the right.
They're going to meet in the middle.
They're flanking! Check your 6! 6 o'clock. FBI surveillance tapes from devices planted in the wall of the building record a man inside the compound saying, everybody wake up, let's start to pray. Then, Pablo, have you poured it yet? Huh? Have you poured it yet? In the hallway. Things are poured, right? CEV-1 receives orders to spray 2 bottles of tear gas into the left corner of the building.
So poured it as in possible drinking of the Kool-Aid?
Possible gasoline?
Or possibly, right? Yeah. Okay.
Or some type of flame
Accelerant.
Yes, an accelerant. That's what I was looking for.
I'm good for something every now and then.
Good
Normally
man.
not big words.
Look a boy. 605 armored vehicle with ram and delivery device to pump tear gas into building with pressurized air rips into front wall just left of front door, leaving a hole 8 feet 2.4 meters high and 10 feet 3.0 meters wide. Agents claimed the holes.
It's a big hole.
Yeah, and they claimed them. That's my hole. Agents claimed the holes allowed insertion of the gas as well as provided a means for escape. Agent sees shots from inside the compound directed at CEVs. Which, who gives a fuck? I looked these things up. They're literally tanks just without the gun. They're tanks with like a different top so that they can do this shit. 610. FBI surveillance tapes record, "Don't pour it all out, we might need some later," and "Throw the tear gas back out." FBI negotiator Byron Sage is recorded saying, "It's time for people to come out." Surveillance tapes record a man saying, "What?" and then, "No way." 612. FBI surveillance tapes record Branch Davidians saying, "They're gonna kill us, then they don't want to kill us." Well, I would imagine there's probably a lot of confusion going on within the walls of that building at that time. 631. The entire building is gassed. 647. The FBI hostage rescue team fires plastic non-incendiary tear gas rounds through the windows. Non-incendiary. That's important.
Okay.
Because CS gas is flammable. And the government knows that. So they are only using non-incendiary rounds.
To avoid
allegedly
a fire.
We'll get into that.
Okay.
723. FBI surveillance tapes record a male Branch Davidian saying, quote, "The fuel has to go all around to get started." Then a second male says, quote, "Well, there are 2 cans here if that's poured soon." Yeah. It gets in. There's a lot going on here. That's why I'm reading the whole fucking FBI transcript here. 730. CEV-1 is redeployed, breaching the building and inserting tear gas. Branch Davidians fire shots at CEV-1. Again, who gives a fuck? Let me shoot at this tank. Good call, stupid. So, we move on to 748. On FBI tapes of agents recording during the siege, an FBI hostage rescue team agent requests permission to fire military-style tear gas shells to break through an underground concrete bunker. He receives permission and fires 2 shells. 758. CEV-2 with battering ram rips a hole into second floor of compound. Minutes later, another hole is punched into the rear of one of the buildings of the compound. The vehicles then withdraw. They're punching holes in the rear.
They were
fucking kinky boys.
At least they pulled out.
808.
Well, if it's in the rear, do you really have to pull out?
Eventually.
After the job's done.
Well, they pulled out. They withdrew early. 808.
Something I've never done.
No, well, not early to you, at least.
Well, yeah, but it's all about me.
All right, here we go. This is where we get interesting. 808. 3 pyrotechnic military tear gas rounds were shot at the concrete construction pit, not the concrete bunker. Away and downwind from the main quarters, trying to penetrate the structure, but they bounce off. An agent in the CEV reports that 1 shell bounced off bunker and did not penetrate. They're penetrating and punching holes in the back.
I'm all for it.
Anyway, 824, the audio portion of FBI videotape ends at the request of the pilot. That's weird to me. There's no more audio or videotape.
A request of the pilot. Were they running low? Or
maybe.
Because this was before digital.
Fair enough. So 9 o'clock, the Branch Davidians unfurl a banner that reads, "We want our phone fixed." So they're basically 15-year-old girls that got in trouble.
Damn it, we want our phone back.
You keep burning us to death, but we want our phone fixed, you fucking assholes.
Give us our fucking cell service for the next tear gas fucking brigade.
How am I supposed to be Instagram famous if I can't Instagram Rebecca? You're such a tyrannical bitch. My dad married you, not me. You're not my fucking real mom.
Oh, boy.
So,
It had to have been 15-year-old girl
yeah.
writing that.
913 CEV1 breaks through the front door to deliver more gas. 920. FBI surveillance records a meeting starting at 7:30 a.m. between several unidentified males. Unidentified male. They got 2 cans of Coleman fuel down there, huh? Unidentified male. Empty. All of it? Nothing left.
I think the picture is being painted of
It
what
is.
actually happened.
Well,
here.
a picture is being painted.
A picture, a picture is being painted.
Yeah. 10 o'clock, Phil comes into the picture. 10 o'clock, a man is seen waving a white flag on the southeast side of the compound. He is advised over loudspeakers that if he is surrendering, he should come out. He does not. At the same time, a man believed to be Schneider comes out from the remains of the front door to retrieve the phone and the phone line. So you got all this shit going on. You got fucking the buildings burning down. People are fucking killing each other in mercy killings. And this motherfucker runs out the front door to get the fucking phone back. It's a little late, bud. Like, yeah. I don't know who you gonna call? You're gonna call fucking Captain Planet and come put that fucking fire out like it's nothing? No, bitch. Just leave, motherfucker. Like, this is the point where you just fucking leave.
Well, that 15-year-old girl wanted her goddamn phone.
My thing is, I seriously doubt once it... Okay, we'll get to that later. We'll get to the opinion later. Let's finish this timeline.
Yeah, finish the timeline.
Because the timeline's quite long. The timeline's actually most of what I have left, for real. So, 11:30, the original CEV2 has mechanical difficulties, damaged tread. Its replacement breaches through backside of compound. 11:17 to 12:04. According to the government, a series of remarks such as, I want a fire, keep that fire going, and do you think I could light this soon, indicate that the Branch Davidians have started setting fire to the complex around 11:30. Surviving Branch Davidians testified that Coleman fuel had been poured, and fire experts in Danforth's report agree, quote, without question, that people inside the complex had started multiple accelerated fires. That's coming from Branch Davidians and a expert from the Danforth report.
Okay.
11:43. Another gas insertion takes place with the armored vehicles moving well into the building on the right rear side of to reach the concrete interior room where the FBI hostage rescue team believe the Branch Davidians are trying to avoid the gas. 11:45. The wall on the right rear side of the building collapses. 12:03. An armored vehicle turret knocks away the first floor corner on the right side. 12:07. The first visible The first visible flames appear in 2 spots on the front of the building. First on the left of the front door, and on the second floor, a wisp of smoke, then a small flicker of flame, it says. Then a short time later, on the far right side of the front of the building, and at a third spot on the back side. An FBI hostage rescue team agent reported seeing a Branch Davidian member igniting a fire in the front door area. 12:09. Your mom's here. 12:09. Ruth Riddle exits with a floppy disk in her jacket containing Koresh's manuscript of the 7 seals. A third fire is detected on the first floor.
Do we need to explain to you young folk what a floppy disk is?
Right. It's an erectile dysfunction disk.
Yes. Did
12:10.
not have Blue Chew.
12:10. Flames spread quickly through the building, fanned by high winds. The building burns very quickly. 12:12. An emergency call is placed regarding the fire. 2 Waco Fire Department trucks are dispatched. Shortly after, the Belmead Fire Department dispatches 2 trucks. 12:22. Waco fire trucks arrive at the checkpoint, where they are halted, not being allowed to pass until 12:37. Belmead follows shortly after. 12:25, there's a large explosion on the left side of the compound. One object hurtles into the air, bounces off the top of a bus, and lands on the grass. 12:25, there's a large wait, that's the same thing I just read. 12:30, part of the roof collapses. Around this time, there are several further explosions, and witnesses report the sounds of gunfire, attributed by the FBI hostage rescue team to live ammunition cooking off throughout the buildings because of the fire. Valid. 12:43, according to the fire department logs, fire trucks arrive at the compound. 12:55, fire begins to burn out. The entire compound is leveled. 15:45, a law enforcement source states that David Koresh is dead. So that is how the FBI paints the picture of the events of that whole day. Well, the events that actually matter. I doubt. 11:16, pizza got there. 11:25, negotiations. Hostage negotiator gets into physical altercation with tactical team member over last slice of sausage pizza. Those are the details we need. That's the details everybody wants. Really want. Those are the questions that need to be answered.
All right, so we pretty much...
I'm getting pretty close here.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of...
Houses collapse at this point.
Oh, it's done.
It's done.
It's leveled. There's nothing left. Everybody's dead. The house is burnt down. Well, the house, compound, whatever. And I'm going to finish up quite quickly here because a lot of this is opinion on a lot of this that we can kind of go back and start from the beginning and fucking ticky-tack our way through. So the aftermath of this whole thing, this siege was criticized by the new ATF director, Jim Magall, for several reasons. Magall made the Treasury, quote, Blue Book report on Waco required reading for new agents. And in 1995, a Government Accountability Office report on the use of force by federal law enforcement agencies observed that, quote, on the basis of Treasury's report on the Waco operation and views of tactical operations experts and ATF's own personnel, ATF decided in October 1995 that dynamic entry would only be planned after all other options have been considered and began to adjust its training accordingly. So at least they're learning something from it, I guess. Maybe. Anyway, in August of 1993, a federal grand jury indicted 12 of the surviving Branch Davidians on counts ranging from aiding and abetting in the murder of federal officers to unlawfully possessing and using various firearms.
All right.
Given the situation, I can't say they're wrong for that one. I can't say I agree with either side fully on this one, but they did shoot at federal agents. That's a no-no. You probably shouldn't do that if you don't want to get fucking charged for some shit like that. Now, 5 Branch Davidians were acquitted of the murder-related charges, but convicted of lesser charges, including aiding and abetting the voluntary manslaughter of federal agents. 8 Branch Davidians were convicted of firearms charges, and that's kind of that. As far as there wasn't a whole lot of like super lofty prison sentences. I mean, depending on, nobody was doing like 25 to life.
Right.
So people had outdates at least. So pretty much the last shit I have on this is, unless I'm missing a page, which I don't think I am. I'm pretty sure I went through all the other pages.
Sounds like you went through it all.
Yeah. So one toss into the aftermath of this whole thing is Timothy McVeigh. Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, drove from Arizona to Waco to observe the siege. He was photographed by the FBI and was even interviewed by a TV reporter while he was there. A courtroom reporter claimed to have seen him later outside the courthouse at the Waco trials, selling anti-government bumper stickers. That's an allegation. We don't know if that's true or not.
But what we do know is true. What we do know that is true.
We do know
a building, and this was.
We do know that's my last note. He later cited the Waco incident as a primary motivation for his April 19th, 1995 bombing of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City, which killed 168 people and injured over 600.
Well, that is one fuck McVeigh.
Yeah,
we will never do a full episode on Timothy McVeigh.
I might.
Well, you will be.
I find him like the lead up to the whole thing very interesting.
Now, correct me if I'm
because he's
wrong.
so intelligent and shit like that, and then it just like it's always like it's hard to wrap your head around somebody being as smart as some of these guys are.
Correct me if
and
I'm
going
wrong.
down the route that they go down, expecting a different outcome.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was there or there not a daycare in that building?
Yeah.
Then fuck Timothy McVeigh. Find a fucking building without a fucking daycare in it, you fucking colossal douchebag.
I think that was part of the whole thing.
Well,
He
see,
was
I
he was going for maximum damage, and
no, I will not justify or
I'm not justifying
acknowledge.
anything.
I will not even acknowledge somebody that went out of their way to kill kids.
Oh God, what are you gonna do when I want to do Chris Watts?
Don't even know who it is. I have to look, but just to prove a point
And there's
about
another
the
one
government.
there's another one I have to look up that I want to do, and it is just so shocking. It just like the whole story fucking kind of sucks, and you're like, weird. And then the end of it, you're like, I remember the first time I heard this story. I need to find out. I forget who the names of the people involved, but we're gonna do it because it was one of the first times that like I listened to a whole fucking story about something, and was like, yeah, I mean that's kind of fucked up. That's kind of weird. And then at the end, in the last 10 minutes, was just like, what the fuck?
I mean, listen, if you have a beef with the freaking government, by all means, do what you got to do. I don't like it, but don't take out the kids. There are other government buildings. Take out something that doesn't have a daycare.
Yeah.
If you're that pissed off at the government, fine, by all means, do what you got to do to make yourself your little
because you're gonna get what you got coming to you anyway.
Yeah, but when you fucking do it, knowing there's fucking a daycare in that school, go fuck yourself. You can eat the biggest bag of raunchy, rotten micro penises ever.
So you don't want to do Columbine?
No, I don't even want to do school shootings that much. I mean, but I don't know. Maybe Columbine just for, I don't know.
There's a lot. Well, there's just more information.
We'll do something on which will get us in trouble, and we're not going to, when it comes to school shootings, I'm fascinated by a lot of the witness statements.
Oh, whether like the legitimacy of them?
Right, that people in black, basically black op type, blacked out suits with ARs and shit have been seen. Not saying that I believe it, but I think it's fascinating that some teachers that have been inside some of these school shootings have reported this. The same
and that's the thing. That's the problem
type.
with the school shooting thing. First off, well, that's not the problem. It's a problem, period. Don't get me wrong. It shouldn't fucking happen. And everybody that's ever even fucking thought about doing it more than once should get fucking shot in the dick. But
right up the urethra.
Well, but that's the thing is like ever since the Alex Jones thing, it's like almost criminalized to have curiosity about those situations. And I understand it. Right. Like don't get me wrong. Like you and I, like this is what we do. This is our side business, hopefully one day, and our hobby. But like I was into macabre, fucked up shit before I ever was on this podcast, and it's like yeah, stuff like that is interesting details that I'm not saying they're true, but it's interesting. And that doesn't, by me being curious about that does not by any stretch of the imagination say that I'm condoning or taking away the legitimacy of any of this stuff. It's just like people are like, well, what if Sandy Hook was fake? What if it fucking was? That doesn't change the fact that kids fucking died and their parents got badgered on the internet saying that your kid died for this. Fuck you. The kid's still fucking dead. The parent's still fucking mourning. That doesn't change any of that.
Yeah, my thing is I'm fascinated by these people, survivors who have seen who have reported seeing tactical type people involved. Military style actions. Mm-hmm. Now, these people could just listen. When you're in that kind of situation, the adrenaline, a life and death situation, you don't know it's very possible you could have hallucinated it. Mm-hmm. It's very possible. And human beings
we did finish that up quick. There's a lot of opinion to be shared, though. That's where we're at.
Human beings are notorious horrible witnesses.
Yeah.
Especially if you are in smack dab in
if
the
you're
middle of
in a stressful situation,
Right.
yeah, it's hard to fucking
Right.
You could be, like you said, just not seeing things as they are, period. And you're sure as fuck going to have a hard time recollecting stuff when you are running around trying to survive a situation.
Now, it's well documented.
Like, we're not all trained fucking trained combatants in situations like this where we're just,
right.
like, we see something popping off and we're like, that ashtray's big enough to bash someone's head in. That window opens out. That door is locked. Like, we're not fucking Jason Bourne.
Right. Now, but with saying that people are horrible witnesses, especially who are living through that high stress situation, I will say this. The government does some shady shit.
Oh, fuck yeah, they do.
You know, and what's agent provocateurs? You know, that's basically we've had a lot of riots in the past 2 years.
Oh yeah, like the
government,
the bricks
the
just
bricks
kind of showing up. Yeah.
You know, and there have been documentations about the tactical units have insurged themselves into rioters.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't put that past the government at all.
Right.
I 100% believe that that's a thing. But everybody knows that I'm not shy about that shit. Like I have no problem saying that I do think that there's more that we don't know behind a lot of this shit. It's just like I've gotten in the argument with several people because I've said that Black Lives Matter is bullshit. And they're like, that's fucking racist. I was like, no.
The concept.
The idea of black is phenomenal.
Right. The organization
is the one that I have a problem with.
That
yes.
term. They just stole the term.
That's the part that I don't like. Because we were like, oh, you don't think Black Lives Matter? Of course fucking Black Lives. Are you stupid? Are they alive? I don't give a fuck what color they are. Lives matter, dickhead.
You can't say that though. Well, you can say anything you want. You're not. You're non-white, motherfucker.
That's just facts. Like every life fucking matters. Right. The only lives that don't matter, there are lives that don't matter. Actually,
Cats.
I will say that. Child molesters and stuff like that. Those lives that we could do without. But it goes without saying when I've brought that up and they're like, "Oh, that's fucking racist," and I'm like, "I'm not. Hear me out." Like,
right. I mean,
like I don't like the organization. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there's shady shit going on within it.
Whenever you get money involved in anything, shit gets
now
crazy.
if you're just taking the phrase Black Lives Matter, no shit.
The concept.
100% agree with that one.
Right. But getting back to the government, we've covered this. We've covered MK Ultra.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
That being said, I also want to clarify that just because I say I have a problem with the organization, I do not disagree that there is social injustice that has racial bias in this country. I also 100% agree with that. It's just literally like the organization itself is what I am not a fan of.
Harumph.
I felt that to clarify that, like, I'm not saying all lives matter just because, like, I do think that there is injustice towards people of color in this country. I think that is an obvious fucking
micro
problem.
penises matter. Okay, that's my new fucking organization.
MP matters.
Yes. No
micro penises. No, just my penis. Also yes, but yeah.
Where was I? Oh, but the government, like I said, we've covered does crazy shit. We've covered it. MK Ultra. We haven't covered it yet, but we will at some point. The Lyme disease issue.
Well, there's also literally actual government paperwork from 60, 70 years ago that was like the president had in his hand. I can't remember the fucking name of the guy that presented it, but it was a literal outline of how they could go about ridding the country of a certain socioeconomic class of people below a certain point, to just keep it as elite as you can and only have to deal with a certain level of poverty or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I forget what the operation was called. The CIA came up with a fucking concept to get us with Cuba to we all heard the term false flag. If you haven't heard it, I'll go ahead and explain it to you.
We could do a whole episode just on that.
You do something or make it look like something happens to spark interest or spark a reaction in the citizens of the country to get them to rally around a particular idea. Gulf of Tonkin.
Mm-hmm.
That is what got us into. It wasn't what got us into Vietnam, but that's what originally got the support to get us. But never fucking happened.
Yeah.
There's documentation. It was a complete 100% false flag.
Mm-hmm.
This is
probably also had something to do with why Kennedy's dead.
This is the CIA and government's MO. This is what they do. Somebody in the CIA took something to Kennedy when we wanted to get oust Castro.
Mm-hmm.
The Bay of Pigs incident. Yeah. Bay of Pigs was a payback because to the Kennedys, the CIA fucked us.
Yeah.
Because Kennedy would not. They actually came up with a plan to spark a war with Cuba by blowing up airliner.
Mm-hmm.
Blowing up and blame it on the Cubans.
What did they blow up? Didn't they blow up like part of the airstrip as well?
I think so. But that was a fucking plan presented to the president and Kennedy's brilliance that said, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, and it's just like everybody, like when you talk about Kennedy, like all that shit definitely had something to do with him getting fucking assassinated. And then everybody brings up like, oh, well, the mafia too. It all makes sense. Who the fuck do you think the mafia learned half their shit from?
The mafia, here's what a lot of people don't know. The CIA used the mafia hitmen for wet work.
Yeah. Who do you think the fucking mafia learned their shit from?
But anyway, the government does fucked up shit. So I question everything.
Yeah, you have to. You have to, and unfortunately, you're fucking crazy for doing that.
Right. You have to, and then we'll go back into Waco for a minute. This is my main fucking problem with Waco. That's why I hate freaking cults. I don't understand how anybody, maybe I'm just that hard-headed and strong-minded.
Yeah, see, and I'm the same way, but like I can sympathize with it from a certain point of view. Like I can completely wrap my head around like somebody just being so down and out that like they get that light, you know what I'm saying? And then like you just kind of fall into that because you have nothing else left. I can understand that. But I can't understand blindly following a thing like that for so long.
Being enamored with something because you're at such a low point and it.
But I agree. Point, 6 months in, you're going to be like, hold the fucking phone here.
Wait a minute.
Did you just fuck my wife?
Okay. Or you want to do what to my child?
Right.
At some
point.
Like,
oh yeah, you can marry and bear children with my 13-year-old daughter. No problem.
And that is my issue. You know, I do not like any organization, whether that be religion or government, that doesn't allow you to question anything. Everything, you have to question everything. I question my own thoughts at times.
Yeah.
You know, but that and this is why I when it comes to Waco, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the people that died in that fucking compound. You elected to fucking stay. You took your kids into that situation.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't smart enough.
Well, a lot of them had kids in that situation. Right. Because, mind you, they had been there for a while. A lot of those people were around before David Koresh took control of the Branch Davidians. So they'd been around for a while.
You kept your kids, kept your kids in that situation, and just blindly following, not asking questions, and not, I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of sympathy. You know, maybe, honestly, this is going to be a little harsh, and I might get some blowback on this. Maybe it's natural selection, thinning out the fucking herd a little bit, getting some of the stupidness out of us. Maybe Bill Burr was right. Half of us need to go, and Thanos was right.
Well,
half of us need to go.
And I see the logic in that thought process, but the problem where a lot of people misconstrue it is like, it doesn't change the fact that what happened was fucked up and wrong and people died that didn't need to die, including children. Right. But like there is the thought of like it does come to a point where it's like justifying holding on to your belief system and believing in what you believe so hardcore to the point that you're inside of a burning building with your kids and you're not going to at least get your kids out.
That's where I can't.
Like at that point, you would be better off. Like I would think you were a better parent if you threw your kid out of a second-story window to get that kid out of that building. The kid might survive the fucking fall out the window. They ain't gonna fucking survive a fire.
Well, let's take an example from to modern day. When we pulled out of Afghanistan, that rapid pullout that Mr. Presidente decided to do in the middle of the night, and
that worked out well.
We left hundreds of thousands of, I think, and hundreds of thousands of people there who helped us for 20 years, actual American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
That you're on your own. Now we went back. Individual groups went back to try to get these people out, and we've spoken about Tim Kennedy was one of them. He was part of a group that had a nonprofit that went over, and he tells stories of these people who they want to get out of there, throwing their babies over the freaking fence. Yeah. And there's razor wire on both sides of the fence, hoping that somebody would catch their kid to get them away from the militant Taliban that had overran.
Oh, and also let's not mention that the CIA trained the Taliban.
Well, that's a story for another day. But my point is, people will do anything to try to secure the survival of their children.
Well, and see, that's where the old thinker comes in on this one, because were those people not doing that, or were they not allowed to do that?
Or were they just that brainwashed?
That's what I'm saying. Were they not doing it because this is the chosen one has preached this is, so it is written, so it shall be done? Or were they actually hindered from those actions of, like, maybe some of them did try to save their kids, and some of those assisted suicides?
Well, this leads us down to the next point. The transcripts that you read off. Gregory makes a point that he does not he says, I never trusted the transcripts from the government because of who was, what does that say, involved. It always seemed to be a cover up or cover our ass instead of what actually happened. Okay.
I mean, I feel like that's a given that's going to be a given on both sides of any situation.
Now, but here's where I'm going to push back just a little. Those transcripts were very damning. Makes it sound like odds are they were pouring accelerant fuel or gas or something.
Well, mind you, over the course of this, because go ahead,
but
make your point, because I swear I lost a page.
If you can't believe that, okay, if you believe the government, the FBI and all of them were trying to cover up, so those transcripts are false. But here's where I have a problem with it. They had actual witnesses that were inside the compound basically saying the same thing. So that puts, in my opinion, a little bit more credibility to the fact that they were going to burn it to the ground from inside. You understand? Does that make sense?
I swear I'm missing a page. Because let me throw this in there as well. Because I could have, I think I'm missing a page somewhere. Maybe it didn't print right. But mind you, the whole thing with this was the purposeful use of CS grenades that were non-incendiary. So no flame involved. There were incendiary grenade shells found inside of that facility after it burnt down. And if I remember, because again, it's not right in front of me, but if my memory serves me correctly, the Texas Rangers said that they provided incendiary CS rounds to the FBI teams because they were running out, because it took so long. They were running out of gas. So they were told not to use incendiary rounds because CS gas is flammable.
Right.
And there were supposedly CS grenade remains found in that complex.
So here's probably what actually happened. The government lied about that. There were incendiary devices thrown in there, which added to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And probably the Branch Davidians started the fire and used accelerant. Both probably.
I would not be surprised in any way if both parties were at fault in this fire. Because I've said from the beginning, I think the government fucked up and did some really stupid shit here. But I also don't think the Branch Davidians are like pure as the driven snow in this situation either. Especially David Koresh. David Koresh knew what the fuck he was doing the whole time he was involved with this shit. Before he even did this shit.
Okay, kids.
Like, he's a suave, smart motherfucker for somebody who's supposed to be a dumb motherfucker.
Here, take a little lesson from Uncle Phil here.
Uncle Phil?
If you are in the middle of a religious movement, you are a member of a religious group, and they resort, or you find out that they are selling firearms, fucking leave. They're stupid. Nothing's good going to come from it.
Probably not.
You might want to get the hell out. And if you don't get the hell out, it's on you. And if you get your kids in there with you, I hope you burn them fucking hell. I'm done. No church should be fucking dealing, no religious organization, unless you're the Knights fucking Templar, taking fucking people back and forth to Jerusalem back in the medieval times or whatever the fuck that was, to be armed. If you're a religious group, you're dealing with...
But you're dealing arms. But it's a different kind of religious group. When you're talking about a religious group that has like an apocalyptic end game with their whole thing.
Every fucking religion known to man.
True,
like
but some of them look at it a little different.
Speaks of the end times.
Yeah, but they're portrayed differently in different religions and different sects.
And I'm sorry, like you said,
I'm not saying it justifies it. I'm just saying,
like you said, if you got MREs, you're not. Really,
oh no, I don't. I don't disagree
yourself.
with you. It's just like it's a hard thing to fucking like you can't. Shit like this is a hard thing to just throw a blanket over. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just
like every individual situation and every individual cult or clique or whatever the fuck is gonna be a little bit different.
I'm just saying, if you are a member of a church and they're selling guns and packing MREs,
then probably fuck off.
You're in the middle of you're playing for the wrong team.
Yeah.
Because the rapture comes, if you're good and just, they're taking you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the MREs. You sure the fuck don't need a gun. You're not a young Christian warrior.
Yeah.
Go eat a dick.
See, in the shit with shit like this, it's weird because like you got to think like what the fuck was David Koresh's end game?
Well,
it clearly wanted to get rich.
I mean, it was 93, so he couldn't start an OnlyFans. I guess selling guns was the only way to do it.
I mean, well, he also played in a band.
Probably pretty shitty. Probably a shitty band.
Apparently, he was a good guitar player.
Well, you know.
From what they say.
I don't know. I have a hard time justifying anything. I just can't, as a parent. And I have the same issue with Scientology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
you know,
there's a lot of issues with Scientology.
And here's my thing about religions. If your religion tells you can't question anything, I'm sorry. Question everything.
Right.
I question everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but to follow somebody so blindly where you take your kids into a danger. I guarantee you, if I was hanging out with some religious folk with my kids and I found out what was going on, trust me.
Well,
we're out.
And that's the difference between fucking tending your flock and brainwashing people. Which, personal opinion, is the same fucking thing, but the execution of it and the result of it.
Now, Gregory is kind of fighting back on my editing the tapes and all. You know, Greg, if you want to blame the government completely, go ahead. I think both. I
think it's
guarantee you the Branch Davidians read gasoline and they were going to light fires. They were committing suicide. Every cult, just about every cult in this situation does it.
Well, and you're like, really, they're just feeding into what they think is meant to be.
Right. They're ending.
Yeah, I don't think I would almost 100% say that the government definitely covered some shit up and whited out some shit and recanted some shit and changed some shit. I also don't think I don't want to say the Branch Davidians because like it's kind of
the fanaticals part of the Branch Davidians.
And David Koresh himself, he was the hierarchy of the Branch Davidians. I don't think that they were not at fault either.
They probably started some fires, and the government with their incendiary devices started some fires too.
Yeah, I think
they both were wrong. I'm not, and I don't give a fuck how bad you hate the fucking government. They both were wrong here, and to give the Branch Davidians an out and feel sorry for them, no, that's hypocritical. That's just as stupid. You know, they both did it. They both played a role in it.
Yeah, I mean, the only place you could really say, or I could say that the government is more wrong is like, yeah, maybe if you handled stuff a little bit differently, it wouldn't have come to quite that situation, but that's where we ended up. It doesn't fucking matter anyway.
I mean, let's be honest. This is the outcome of most cults. Most religious end-of-day cults. Yeah. This is what happens, whether the government's involved or not. Look at the one fuckers that got on Haley Bop. Didn't we cover them? Did we do an episode on them?
Who?
The alien ones that committed mass suicide with the Nikes and got on. They were meeting.
What was it? The People's Temple or whatever the fuck.
Oh, whatever. The government wasn't involved in that, were they? And they committed suicide. Now, Jim Jones, there are some people who believe that was the CIA killed. The Kool-Aid was put there by the CIA.
Yeah.
There's that conspiracy theory. Whether or not, I don't know.
But, I mean, there's also the whole thought, or the whole thing of, like, anybody who didn't chase the Kool-Aid, they said got, like, hunted down and shot.
Right. You know, but this is kind of the MO of end-of-day cults. They think
they're literally looking for the end of it all.
You're right.
Because they think once that happens, that's when they get to salvation.
And this is what the Branch Davidians were.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
Oh, I definitely think that because of their belief system, they leaned into the shit.
So to completely blame the alphabet agencies that were there in the federal government for this, yes, they have some of the blame, but they played into the Branch Davidians' hands. This is what this was going to end this way in fire.
I think that goes both ways. I think both of them played into each other's hands both ways.
Fire, no matter what.
Yeah.
But I do firmly believe the government needs to be patient. We'll sit out here all fucking year.
Because they can. Like, what do you... it's costing this much.
And here's what
Bitch, you have that fucking budget anyway. You're going to fucking spend it one way or the other.
Here's what I...
spend the money.
Here's what I say. If I was in charge of this, I would say, okay, listen, we're going to be here. I'm going to be sitting in my lawn chair. DoorDash will be coming up. I'm going to have my internet Pornhub right here next to me. David, you want to watch? I'll get you a video camera. We'll watch it together.
Right.
But we're going to be here as long as it takes. You're not going to have any water. You're not going to have any power. And your 15-year-old girl's not getting her fucking cell phone back. She can kiss the biggest part of my ass.
Yeah.
This is the way it's going to be. Eventually, you're going to get hungry. I got nothing but fucking time. I'm sitting out here waiting.
That's what kills me is like, did it not happen, or did we just never hear about the one guy inside that compound that just like in the middle of all this was like, hold the fucking phone here. What are we talking about? But, God damn it, Dave. You're a good guy and you can play a mean fucking sixth string, but we got to fucking talk about this shit. We got to figure this shit out right now.
But I'd tell David Koresh, I said, listen, buddy, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to sit out here. I'm going to have my little suntan with that little, that aluminum thing people use. And if
not even a real one. Like,
right.
You stole it from
the
fucking front window of one of the cars.
That's on you. Here's your options. You can die in there or you can come out.
Well, that's like,
I'm sitting here.
I find it hard to believe that not one person out of all these people in this compound, like in the middle of the shootout or any of this shit, just looked at him and went, fuck you. I'm out of here.
But I tell David Chris, listen, this is the way it's going to happen. And if you
I'm going to leave.
If you start burning the fucker down, you know what I'm doing? I got a whole truckload of marshmallows out here. I don't give a fuck. That's on you. And I broadcast this conversation to the fucking world. This is what's going to happen. It's on you. You got one of two options. Burn it to the ground or come on out and let's talk about this. Let everybody out and come on out.
Yeah.
Those are your options. That's what I'm doing. Fuck you. I sit out here all day. For one, I'm away from the wife and kids. This is a fucking vacation for me. This
there had to be some of those people.
Or on the beach.
There absolutely had to be some of those people.
I would hope somebody in there said, what the fuck?
Yeah, there's no way everybody in there was that blind.
I mean, if I was in there, I'd be like, I'm out. Fuck this shit.
So I guess in
closing,
everybody was wrong.
Oh, yeah, they both fucking were wrong, and I'm sure the government covered some shit up.
A lot of those people shouldn't have died.
Nobody should have fucking died.
Right?
They should just let the fucking kids go. But like I said, if you are a member of a cult and that weak-minded, maybe you need to go. Fuck you. If you will put your kids in harm's way, then fuck you.
I mean, chances are those people would have found another way to
probably
be dispatched.
Yeah, I just don't have a lot of sympathy for somebody who puts their kids in harm's way when your only job is to fucking protect them.
He's not very good at tending his flock.
No, that's your only fucking job as a parent, is to try to protect them and get them to 18. Then after that, they're on their own.
Right.
That's your only fucking job.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that there wasn't kids getting just like tossed out that front door when those fires started is beyond me.
I don't know. But like Gonzo says, next week is a much better story. Black-eyed kids. And those aren't kids.
Better story.
Those aren't real kids, so I'm going to rag on them little cock munchers.
Oh, even if they are real, fuck them anyway. If they are what we're talking about, then fuck them.
All right. Well, we got an hour and a half out of that.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty good, because I got to pee again.
I need a cigarette.
And then we will, for those Patreon members, we will do our after show tonight, since we had to skip last Wednesday's after show. So we will be moving this party on over to Patreon. And if you want to get these extra bonus live streams that we do, where's the thing there? You can go to patreon.com/GITM podcast, and you get a bunch of bonus material, and you also get the after show live streams, which generally happen on Wednesdays after the What the Fuck Wednesday. No, Gonzo, you cannot come. We've covered this before. Unless you go to patreon.com/GITM podcast and subscribe. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
But we will probably do it again Wednesday to get back on schedule. An after show too. Just to get us back on schedule.
I was like, we can do it tonight and Wednesday. We can do one just Wednesday. It doesn't matter to me.
I say we do it tonight to make up for.
It
won't be long tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably only gonna be like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's gonna be long. We're talk, shit to one another for. Maybe talk about the last Bigfoot killers. So Travis can get a chubby. But I will do it as always. I will send the Patreon subscribers a link or an email out from Patreon with the link to that live stream here momentarily once I get it set up. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast if you have not done so yet. And for those people who are always in the chat, we greatly appreciate it. Be sure to share this on all your social medias. That is one easy, great way that you can help us grow a little bit. So, with that being said, we're freaking out of here. We will see the Patreon members here shortly, and we will be back on Wednesday for another What the Fuck Wednesday live stream. And then next Sunday, we're talking Black-Eyed Kids. We're getting down the paranormal rabbit hole again.
Child abuse.
Yes, not the guys with solid black eyes. We're talking about kids with raccoon eyes. We got the shit kicked out of them.
Yes.
We're
talking about Joe Jackson's kids. We're talking about the Jackson 5.
You'll have to come and find out, make if we're lying or not. All right, we will see you next week or Wednesday, and then next week, whenever. We'll see whenever.
We'll see you times.
We'll see multiple times because we're just cool like that. So take care. We love you, and Right.
Bye.